Hello and welcome once again. What's up, face-off fans and Schmoedown stands? We are back to break down all the movie trivia news that's fit to print, or in this case, talk a whole lot about. And we're going to talk about so many things this week. I'm joined by the Gleesome threesome. Ryan is not here today, but I am the elk. And of course, Keith is here with all the numbers, the breakdowns, and everything about the matches. Our super producer, CB, is in the house as we look at Alana Jordan versus Brother Lomis. That's right, an FCL debut happening in the Schmoedown. And will this be a holy punishment for Brother Lomis, or will he take home the victory for his team, for his faction? We're going to talk about that one. And we're also going to talk about Rick Raddus versus Ben Bateman. Who could manage this sort of chaos? That's right, a special manager for Ben Bateman, and he's got something special going on as well. The real question this week is, of course, where's the bongos? As we have some great matches, some great trivia, and we're going to get you everything you need to know about this week in the Schmoedown. And hello, fans. Thank you once again for joining us. Your support is always appreciated. And I know you're here to see me, the elk, but of course, I'm joined by two other individuals this week. We've got Keith here. Keith, how you doing today?
It's a pleasure to always be in the company of greatness such as yourself. So really, I should be thanking you for being here, Elk, more so than me being here.
Finally, we're learning some things here this weekend, and our super producer himself, he doesn't always grace the screen, but when he does, your reaction is most likely, okay. Welcome back to the show, at least this part of the show. CB, how you been, CB?
Okay. It's great. It's been a long time. It's been 2 weeks since I've been on, so it's nice to be back, ready to talk all this craziness with you.
There was some craziness this week, and CB, you definitely do sound okay today, I must say. It is great to have you both here, and we've got an exciting week of Schmoedown action to talk about. As mentioned, we have an FCL debut. I know that's got to make both of you guys happy. Alana Jordan, always a perennial fan favorite in the FCL. Now, racking up those pun points here in the Schmoedown. Keith, what did you think of Alana's first time out?
It's great to see. I think we've had obviously a few FCL people cross over, and their characters have changed. I think the nice thing, and it's something we can kind of build on and develop on when we kind of talk about our match. But it was nice to see the same character go through from like an audience point of view, so that the consistency of person is there. But it was really fun to see her pop up, and it's always entertaining when she's on screen.
Yes, absolutely. It was fun to see her face off against Brother Lomis. He brings up the good word, and then she twists it into some sort of unholy pun abomination. CB, I know you always enjoyed Alana Jordan and her infectious energy, which, of course, I was not as much of a fan of. But was it nice to see Alana come back? And do you think this might mean we will see some more FCL competitors popping up on our screens in the future?
Well, I certainly hope so when it comes to that last part. And it was great to have Alana back in the Schmoedown so quickly after, obviously, we see in the FCL last year, and she did relatively well. So it's great to have her back. And the puns, I love the puns. So what was there to complain about?
Well, we are always thrilled to see more FCL faces popping up. Maybe we'll have to talk to some of our FCL friends, see what they think about the appearance of Alana Jordan and whether or not any of them may be making an appearance. We'll get on that one. We'll get all the news and we'll bring it back to you guys. Don't worry about that. But of course, Alana Jordan versus Brother Lomis, not the only matchup happening this week in the Schmoedown. Yes, it's very interesting. It's great to see two competitors really making a name for themselves on that stage. But we have a newbie versus whatever you call Ben Bateman at this point, veteran, I guess was the term they would like. And they're going to be facing off for Ben Bateman to continue on a bit of a run. He started this season off great. He's got a victory under his belt. And he's got not only one of the greatest competitors of all time, one of the greatest announcers of all time, of course, all this discluding myself, one of the greatest teammates he has ever had and the Schmoedown has ever seen. Big personality, dastardly, debonair, I don't care what you call him, but it's Drew Ghai walking out with Ben the Boss Bateman. I mean, the team action energy is there. How do you feel when you see these two guys come out of that curtain together, boys?
It was fantastic, wasn't it? it's awesome to have them back. And obviously, like you said, one of the best competitors with Drew Ghai. I think, is it Keith? You said he's the best player to never win a belt. Is that,
I
still stand by
stand
that?
by this 100%.
Still stand by that.
Six number
Yeah,
one
so
contenders
it's
now.
great. It was great to have him back anyway, even if it was just for this one match. Well,
Yeah,
these 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's unbelievable on the mic. He's unbelievable in person, character, entertainment. He just ticks every single box that you need in the Schmoedown as a competitor, as a person, as a personality. More guy.
Yeah, I went straight down the local music store and bought myself a drum. As soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, got to get me one of those.
Well, yes, Drew Ghai proving he was a fan of Todd Rundgren, as when he doesn't want to work on the desk, he does bang on his drum all day. And he did it for Ben the Boss Bateman this week. I know that you guys know what I think of Drew Ghai. He shares a name with a great one. He shares some of the same wonderful personality traits, the things that make people love me and love Drew Ghai. But most of all, and you guys know this is going to come out there, it's nice to see some people really being dastardly. Yes, that's his nickname, but they can play it up. They can be out there with the best of them. The mind games are in full force. And as far as strategy in the Schmoedown goes, nobody plays the mind games better than Ben the Boss Bateman, with Drew Ghai at his side, looking pretty unstoppable going into this matchup. But he's facing off against what some would say is one of the more promising rookies of the Schmoedown. Yes, he's been around for a while, but he's only got a few matches. However, that has left him as, he said it himself, and I'll back him up, the greatest 3-0 competitor in the Schmoedown. I mean, these are some great matches we've got this week, and I know we're going to be seeing a lot more of at least a few of these competitors soon. But when you initially saw this card, CB, were you excited when you saw these people coming out? Was this to you like a really solid Schmoedown card?
It's a surprising card in a way. Well, obviously, I've not been on the last 2 weeks. I don't really get to talk about everything that happened with Bateman's challenge last week, but Bateman's challenge to Rick to start with, that was a kind of a surprise. I didn't see it going that way. When it came to obviously Team Action versus what was the name? The Reckoning?
The Reckoning, yeah.
The Reckoning, yeah. I honestly didn't know which way it was going to go because Drew's been out of the game for a little while. I didn't know how he's been going with his movie trivia side of things. He's just been announcing, but last week they showed what their Team Action has still got the stuff, and they've been himself this match with Rick this week. So yeah, it's a great card. Enjoyed it thoroughly.
Absolutely. We've got some great people doing some good things so far in the Schmoedown this year. As I said, certainly hoping to see more FCL flavor. That would be great. We know these people. We love them. And we would love to see some of them making some debuts in the near future. But I was very excited about Alana Jordan. I will admit, and you guys have heard me say this, Alana Jordan, not the greatest statistical competitor in the FCL. Few questions missed here and there, but she's always on the game that she wants to play, racking up those pun points. Won't necessarily net you a victory in the Schmoedown, but on a personal level, she is certainly achieving all of her goals. And someone who knows about that inner peace, that personal satisfaction, Brother Lomis out there preaching the good word to the world. On top of that, we've got the Rager looking to go 4-0, and Ben the Boss Bateman, who has some losses, mostly against some of the greatest competitors in the Schmoedown, looking to make his name early in the season, stake his claim, and move forward towards, I don't know, a title run, maybe some big name matches against top tier players. This is very, very exciting stuff. And of course, we're going to break down everything that happened in all of these matches for you. We're going to talk Alana Jordan versus Brother Lomis, and we are going to talk about Rick Raddus versus Ben Bateman. And for all the details of all the matches that happened this week in the Schmoedown, we turn it over, of course, to Keith.
Let's get into this, guys. Undercard with Titans, Alana Jordan, Brother Lomis making his debut on IG. A very, very strange scene set up by Harloff. Alana needed a match. She needed a match, so let's have a match. IG, here we go. Round 1, 9-5 to Lomis. A strong backing up from the previous week in a different division. Missing only one question in the Spider-Man question. Not knowing Reese Fans. I think he said Reese Irfan or something. Forgot the yes at the end of it. Alana only with 5 points coming in at half of the round. Missing a couple of questions here and there, always bringing in the puns, always bringing in the energy, though. Coming into round 2, Lomis with a 4-point lead decides to defer to Alana. She spins away from Swashbuckling Adventure, gets Hasbro on her second spin, and unfortunately only goes 1 for 5 here for 1 point. And this is where kind of the match unfortunately ends pretty quickly here, with Lomis stealing 5 points off her. But it has to be said, like all the time, having fun, you know, bringing back this whole idea of like in studio, kind of this energy and excitement that was really, really needed. Lomis on his first spin gets Alien Predator, decides to spin away from it and lands on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and does what he needs to do to see out the round, see out the match, gets 7 points from the 4 questions asked him. Final score 21-6. It's a good, strong, solid start for Lomis in his IG career, which was, I don't think any of us, you know, in the community would have said Lomis for IG, definitely. Alana, as we said, always bringing the fun, always bringing the puns, even if there is a few small gameplay errors showing up in round 2. But ultimately, I think for an undercard match, for a fight that was going to happen afterwards in Bateman and Raddus, I think this is exactly what you need energy-wise to get the levels up for the audience, for everyone in studio on the day. But listen, CB, kick us off. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you're right. It was a good, energetic match just to get us all rolled up ready for the main event that was coming. Yes, Alana didn't have her best day, did she? Or not get out of the third round. I do worry sometimes that maybe the puns might be getting in the way of the answers, but also I wouldn't want to change her for anything because I think it's fantastic. Her attitude, her just fun demeanor when she's playing is it's just great. So yeah, it was a unfortunate match for Alana, but it was good fun. Brother Lomis, he did really well. He pretty much did everything he could. He missed a few questions. Whether it comes to him actually in the Innergeekdom division, I think I'd like to see him, get into the third round sort of thing. Actually be probably tested a bit more to actually see where he is stacking up compared to some of the other competitors that are out there. But it was a good match, and he did it. He did his job. He did what he had to do. So, yeah.
Elk.
Hey, I've thought about this a lot. I was watching this matchup, and CB, I just want to reassure you as a friend, as someone I've been close to for a while now, you need worry no longer. The puns are absolutely distracting her from her matches. It is 100% guaranteed, the Elk stamp of approval on it. Alana Jordan sometimes focusing a bit too much on those puns, but you may be sitting out there and saying to yourself, hey, that's okay. Some people have different goals. Some people play games to challenge themselves. Some people compete just to see how well they'll do or have a good time. And winners play to win, which is what Brother Lomis does today as he steps in, deadly serious. His spelling, JTE levels of awful, but his performance quite impressive. IG may stand for In God We Trust, whatever God it is that Brother Lomis is praying to, because he definitely knocks it out of the park here. Good answers. He's on the ball, and he takes advantage of, Keith, I know you saw this, and I know you didn't mention it, so I'm going to have to do it for you. A real misplay by Alana Jordan in round number 2. The first couple of questions, she has a category she thinks she's going to do well in. They come across the plate, and she does not know the answer. What do you do in this situation? You drop to multiple choice. Alana Jordan's so focused on her puns that it seemed like 3 questions deep in round 2 when she's really starting to trail before she even remembers that she can ask for the answers to the question. I am surprised that she had so much trouble in this category. Obviously, the Transformers movies, I agree with her on. They're garbage. Don't bother. But real tough round 2. And I think even if she could have clawed her way back, those first 2 questions not going to multiple, and Keith, I want your opinion on this, may have cost her any chance to get back in this matchup.
100%. And I think that there's, you're already down by 4 coming into the round. You've already given up like a steal straight away. Just recenter, refocus, we do it when we're on the cricket field a lot when things are going wrong. You kind of just take a minute, take a breather, take a second, kind of reload and go again. And that's like, listen, we're not here to shit on Alana completely, but I do think like this was kind of shown a little bit in her FCL career last year as well, kind of jumping the gun. And I think like what you get in the entertainment level, you kind of lose out on in the trivia element. And I think that there's a middle ground for her. I genuinely do, because she has won matches in IG in the FCL. She has pulled out big answers, like she was only a question away from taking Chris Adams in singles, and then that whole season and that whole storyline changes in a completely different way. I think there's a middle ground for Alana. She just has to try and find it and marry up the entertainment to the actual gameplay. But again, it's so hard in the moment when you are trying to be one thing to maybe delve away from that as well, Alex. So I think it's probably a mixture of things.
it is true that most people cannot be excellent at everything. And I'd say that the way to get forward in this league for Alana Jordan, I'm not saying take away the energy. Even a cynical, jaded guy like me can look at Alana Jordan and say she's high energy. She's a lot of fun. This is the kind of person you want to hang out with. If you're at a bar doing movie trivia, this might not be the person you want to team up with if you're going into the Schmoedown to compete in movie trivia, at least at this point. Alana Jordan, you may have racked up 20-something odd pun points. I'd say maybe let a few of those fall by the wayside and focus a little more on the points in the match you are involved in at the time. Might help you get a big victory. Either way, no disrespect meant to Alana Jordan. As I said, she seems like such a nice person, although that's not my thing. And it really just rankles me to the very core. Some people do love that, and that's an entertainment that the Schmoedown does bring forward for you. So she can keep rolling along that track, but I'd like to see the seriousness, the intent. Chris Barnes, do you think if Alana Jordan buckles down and gets the right trainer, maybe hanging out in the back with someone like, as a hypothetical example, a Ben Bateman or a William Bibiani, someone with a lot of knowledge who understands the studying of this game, who understands how to get in that match and use the strategy to their advantage, do you think she could improve into something closer to a top-tier Schmoedown player?
I don't know. I don't know if she would be able to get to the top tier. I mean, but, working with someone like a Bateman or a Bibiani or anyone else of that kind of stature is not going to hurt, is it? At the end of the day, it's not going to hurt. It's maybe just a case of, just like you said, Andrew and I said, just maybe let some of those puns go and just actually continue having fun, but actually focus. She's obviously got a pretty decent base knowledge of what's going on there. It's just, maybe there's some deeper cuts she's not going to get, but I don't know if she'd ever be able to get to the top tier, but hopefully. But you can never say never. You never say never, because I didn't really think Andrew Ghai was much of a player, despite Keith saying he was. But then he did pretty well the other night, and obviously he's beat Dan Mel before, so anything can happen.
Well, that just goes to show you that everywhere out there, there's someone who doubts a Drew, and you're always making a mistake when you do, folks. It was a great matchup, some great questions, including one of my favorite categories. So I will let this one out with a plaintive cry of pizza as we move forward into our next matchup for the week. This one is the big one, guys. This is a continuation of last week on Friday Night Titans, as we see Ben the Boss Bateman, complete with the big board, complete with the bongos, and complete with the baddest in the business, Drew Ghai, at his side, stepping up and facing off against the greatest 3-0 competitor in Schmoedown history. I was sent something that said I have to call him that, so I'm going to continue to do so, just so you guys know. Rick Raddus. I think we've got two great competitors going in. I'm very excited about this matchup because Raddus has been on his game so far, getting a lot of points, taking those big 3 victories, as mentioned already. But Ben the Boss Bateman, I think we can all agree on this one, never to be underestimated. At his worst, he plays at a level that some competitors rarely reach. Ben the Boss Bateman is one of the most consistent top-level performers in the Schmoedown. And the reason he hasn't had more success, in my opinion, is the caliber of opponent with which he tests himself. Ben the Boss Bateman has losses to some of the biggest names in the Schmoedown. Will he add another to his list as he goes into the match with this one right here, Rick Raddus? I mean, I know you guys have a lot to say about this match.
Just to jump off that straight away, like 100% agree with what you're saying, because once you climb the mountain, you become a champion, you're in that kind of top echelon where you're only ever going to be playing top players the whole time. There is no more easy paths to titles. There's no more easy roads. So like, even when we think back last year, Ben came in and he had to take out Reilly, Roca, and then Irwin to have a chance to get back tomorrow. Like, that's a murderer's row straight away. So like, to go from that to taking on Raddus first up this season, I think was a little bit of a different kind of direction for Ben, but maybe that's more of a reflection of where he is, I suppose, within the rankings, within the system at the moment, and all the other great players that have come in the last year or so. But I think, listen, let's get into this. Bateman Raddus, 14-9 takes on the best 3-0 player in the league. Andrew Ghai by his side, coming out with the drum. swapping out the whiteboards just before the match begins. Lomis is there with Raddus. It's pretty much like we were last week with the 4 guys going at one another. Getting into round 1, it ends 10-9 to Raddus. Bateman misses the Angelina Jolie question of knowing that she was in Troy. Not knowing that she was in Troy, getting that movie mixed up with Alexandra. I believe that's the one with Colin Farrell, isn't it? I could be wrong.
Yeah, Alexandra,
yeah. I think they're both garbage movies, one way or another, so you can't really blame Ben for mixing them up. But Raddus can't hit his bonus point question, not knowing the Joel Schumacher falling down movie. So 10-9 coming into round 2. Raddus the first of Bateman, spins away from Spike Lee, lands on DreamWorks, goes 4 or 5 for 7 points. Raddus does get the 1 point steal, which leaves us at 16-11. You have to say at this point, Ben's a little bit dicey coming into Raddus' spin, who spins away from Jimmy Stewart on his first one and lands on 90s. And unfortunately, this is kind of where the match really turns. Raddus goes 2 for 5 for 3 points here, and Ben steals on all 3 questions offered up to him, and ending with a 19-14 lead after round 2. And pretty much all the good work that's done in the first half of the match is undone here by Rick, unfortunately, in that round. Raddus then misses his 2, saying Onward and Not Soul for the Oscar Best Animated Movie in 2020. He does get his 3 in Tom Cruise, knowing Tropic Thunder, and then he does push it back to Bateman on his 5 in animated, knowing the movie Ferdinand. Bateman, unfortunately for Raddus, but fortunate for himself, pulls out the win, knowing Days of Thunder for his 2, and then getting snatched with the use of a repeat on his 3, slow rolling as he always does, gets the victory, moves to 15-9. I think it's fair to say, guys, the winning and losing match is the difference in play in round 2, and I suppose it shows the levels. Kind of comes back to what we were saying at the start of this point that you were making out, like the way to maneuver a category that maybe isn't exactly your best. Ben goes 4 for 5, gets 7 points. Raddus goes 2 for 5, gets 3, and ultimately, I think that's the winning and the losing of this match. But listen, CB, take us away.
When I was editing our show last week, I was actually quite surprised when I heard, Keith, you kind of leaned towards Raddus to take this match. I was like, especially with obviously your action background as well, I was like, that's quite surprising. So I wasn't sure. Then, after that round 1, Raddus, perfect minus the bonus. I was like, okay, maybe I should start listening to Keith and his knowledge. But that round 2, it was a rough one for Raddus, but it was just kind of a clinic from Bateman in how to play this game. Like, when you're playing these top players, don't give them a chance to steal anything off you, because they will, and that's exactly what happened. And you're right, it was that round 2 that's done the damage for Raddus. I think he's a good player. He's obviously got fantastic knowledge when it comes, especially to the round 1, going almost perfect. Obviously, minus the bonus. Obviously, it fell off a little bit in round 2, but that could be the luck of the spin. It can be anything. But there's a good player there. Maybe just a little bit of work to do. He's 3-1 now. Is he the best 3-1 player? I don't know. I can't think of who else is a 3-1, but we'll have to wait and see where they go. I can see there's obviously going to be a great future for Raddus in the Schmoedown. And it's like we've been saying, Bateman's one of the best. He's a veteran. It's never going to be easy. But yeah, it was a good match, though. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Elk, was essentially strategy versus style at the end of the day. 24-22, Bateman gets the job done, but it is round 2, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you about round number 2. We talk about a lot of things, Keith, and one of the few things that we really align on when we speak, I know you and we talk a lot about the strategy, the points, where you can win them and where you can lose them. For us, that's an important component of this game, and round number 2 is essential because they are a special kind of points. They're big swing points. You do not want to give up a point in a matchup like this, but you especially don't want to pass it over to your opponent. You're not losing 1 point or 2 points. You're giving up 2 points or 4 points in round number 2 when your opponent is able to steal from you. And if I may, just take advantage of your generosity for a moment, Keith, can you give me Ben Bateman's record coming into this match again? He was 14-9?
14-9, and he's played over 50 matches in total.
And this right there is the ultimate decision maker in this match, in my opinion. It's experience. Greatest 3-1 player now, Rick Raddus. And CB, I did receive a notice from our legal team. Yes, that is apparently what we're required to call him. I don't know who's sending these. They were signed RR. I don't know, Richie Rich or something. But in the Schmoedown, when you're stepping in and you have 24 40, 50 matches of experience like Ben the Boss Bateman does, you fall behind in round number 1, that's okay. You can settle back, you can rely on the knowledge that you know you have, and you can fight hard. You can take advantage of the mistakes of your opponent in that second round and say, I can steal from this guy. I'm ready, I'm waiting, and all I have to do is wait until Mark Ellis says 1 and give the correct answer and really start to get under his skin. Maybe people know Ben Bateman's game at this point, but you still don't necessarily have an answer. If he's getting the questions right and he's coming at you with everything he has, a person with Ben Bateman's strategic mind and his experience in the Schmoedown is always going to have a leg up at the beginning of the matchup at least. Nobly fought by Raddus in round 1. Obviously, I think all over he performed pretty darn well here, but you're going up against one of the best. He is a former champ for a reason. He is a headliner for a reason. Ben the Boss Bateman, one of the best to play the game. He proves it here again today. And with Ghai at his side, it could not have been more entertaining. And we're going to see more of Bateman coming up because I know we've got more matches with Bateman. He seems to be, to me, the center of the beginning of this Schmoedown season. We're seeing Ben Bateman all over the place. I think this is a push forward for Ben Bateman. And I think with the way he's been racking up these wins and the impressive play he's been giving, we're going to see a whole lot more of him after that. Main event for Ben Bateman before we're halfway through the season? Absolutely. You can write it down, you can sign it, and you can guarantee it's going to happen. This is a competitor who knows his stuff and who's going to come in there and take apart anybody who gets in his way. Because after years of being the second to the best, after years of being the one who didn't get asked to prom, Ben Bateman wants to go back to that big show. He wants to take those belts and he wants to prove to everyone out there just how good he is, which is probably almost as good as he thinks he is.
100%. And I think, listen, before we move away from this match and look forward to the future matches coming up, I think that we should take a moment here and appreciate Andrew Ghai, because obviously we had the post-match interview with Jessica, and Jessica pretty much straight out asked him, is this, the start of the second birth of Team Action, or is this it? And it is it. He's retiring, he's going back to the desk, that's what he loves, says some really, really emotional, heartfelt things to, about his time in Schmoedown, about like what he wants Ben to go and achieve and do, and again, like we talked about it last week, like you can just see and tell Ghai being an amazing manager. Like you obviously, at the time that we're recording now, we're able to see some of the after shows that have come out, and let's talk about that challenge in question 4 in the DreamWorks, where he comes back and he talks about a question that was 2 previous to it, and he's outrightly saying, I did that because Ben needed a break, he needed a timeout. I knew I wasn't going to win this challenge, but I knew I needed something for my boy. Like how many, I could think Levine and maybe Witt off the top of my head would be the only ones who would have that kind of foresight to think about it, and it just, what we lose in Ghai the competitor, we gain so much now in Ghai the commentator, Ghai on the desk. And I think, listen, we should really appreciate everything that he has brought from that point of view. He's been a fantastic advocate for the Schmoedown, and quite rightly, like one of the kind of the top 5 personalities you think of when you think of the league. But listen, CB, Andrew Ghai, the best player to never win a belt. What do you think?
I foolishly, as I said earlier, many moons ago, I kind of doubted his actual movie knowledge. I always used to think he was the weakest player, even though I know when he first come in, it looked like he might have been the strongest player on Team Action. But it didn't matter anyway. It was, his movie knowledge kind of, even though it turns out it was pretty damn good, it was secondary to his character and everything else that he just sort of brought to the Schmoedown anyway. He just gave us such a laugh, and it's going to be a shame to, even though it's good to have him on the desk, and he's been fantastic on the desk. When I see him managing this match, I was like, oh, is he going to be Bateman's manager going forward? Is this what we're going to be getting every Bateman match? And I was like, please, dear God. Then at the end, he obviously said those nice words, and obviously he said he's moving on just to be on the desk announcer now, which, fantastic. At least he's still going to be on the on our screens. But he's been fantastic, and good luck with him sitting next to baby carrots all day.
Elk is the second best looking Andrew involved in the Schmoedown scene. What do you have to say about Ghai?
Well, I could say a lot of things about Drew Ghai. I could go on for a while. I could talk about how I went to a live show and I got a chance to actually meet up with Drew Ghai and see that the infectious energy that he has is really there. He is, on some level, that person at all times. He's thrilled about movie trivia. He's thrilled about competing. He is someone who takes this sport very seriously. Was he the greatest competitor of all time? Some people would argue that he was not, and there's a lot of big names ahead of him on that list that make a good case. But if you are making the Mount Rushmore for the Schmoedown, when it comes to personality, big characters, there is nobody in the history of the Schmoedown, in my opinion, who has ever done it as well as Andrew Ghai. It's a thrill to see him back with Ben Bateman, even if only for a few matches. I look forward to everything we see from him on the desk. But obviously a little sad is to not see the dog father himself, Drew Ghai, continuing to manage his friend Ben Bateman in the ring, because he gives us so much to watch, so much to enjoy. That being said, we will still be getting a lot more Drew in the future, which is my favorite thing of all time. So, Andrew Ghai, thank you for the return. And you did say some lovely, heartfelt words out there. Looking forward to everything he contributes in the future, because let's face it, guys, whether he competes or he's on the desk, the Schmoedown is not getting rid of a guy like, Ghai.
100%. Listen, congratulations, Bateman moves on to 15-9, 15 singles wins in his career. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Rager moves now and just kind of turns into the best 3-1 player of all time. And CB, off the top of my head, I believe Kevin Smith is 3-1 also. So, maybe there's a potential match coming down the line there. But listen, Schmoedown moves so quickly, and just as we finish one main event, there's almost another one being set up straight away. Adam Witt comes out with Paige Frabetti, and then pretty much just gives the whole spiel. Frabetti is on the fan favorites, and she wants a piece of the action this season. She wants Kalinowski, and I think, listen, let's look forward to next week in the next week in the Schmoedown.
Okay, so as Keith previously mentioned, next week on the Schmoedown, we have a match between Mike Kalinowski and Paige Frabetti. At the end of Titans this week, Adam Witt comes out with Paige, announcing her as a new competitor for the fan favourites. Sorry, I'm confused why it's called Max. They all seem to be heels, but it's fine. Guys, what do you think of this matchup coming up? Which way do you see it going? Yeah, Keith.
Well...
Either of you. It doesn't matter. Go for it.
All right, if you insist. So we've got two great competitors going into the matchup here. And you have Paige Frabetti, who has been obviously very impressive in a couple of her matchups. There's no overlooking what the Boston Badass can do. And she has victories over some impressive people, some we might even know. Killer is here to win. Mike the Killer Kalinowski has always been a serious competitor, even when he wasn't racking up the W's with alarming regularity. Mike Kalinowski always took the Schmoedown very, very seriously. It's obvious to see. And beyond that, what can you say about this guy? I could go on with his accolades for just about ever. Multi-time tag team champion, Innergeekdom champion. This is a guy who has competed at the highest level for the singles title and only lost to, those top tier competitors we've talked about so many times. I think this is going to be a matchup that's going to go pretty deep. I do not see any chance of a KO happening. But in the end, as Ryan would say if he were here, the greatest faction of all time is corruption. And a big part of the reason is the Killer, Mike Kalinowski. This is somebody going into a matchup against anyone in the Schmoedown that it's hard to bet against. If I had to put money down right now, I would say Mike Kalinowski coming away with the victory. But I think Paige Frabetti is going to take him to the limits on this one.
Yeah, I put it right with that. With I'm very torn with this. I've been a KO fan. Well, to be fair, I was a fan of him before he was even in the Schmoedown. I used to watch DC Movie News with him and Roxy and Adam Getter and Johnny Acosta, and I used to enjoy that. And then when he joined the Schmoedown, I was like, awesome. Mike's over here now as well. So I've been a Kalinowski fan for a long time, corruption fan, obviously, as well. Maybe not so diehard as Ryan, but, I'm still a fan. But I think Paige was probably my favourite rookie, new face from last year. I think she had a fantastic year. It's 3 wins and 2 defeats, I think. But, one of her defeats was against Griffin Newman, I believe, in the tournament, which, he went on to end up at Spectacular facing off against Marisol. Her other defeat was I believe, against, it was in her debut, I think, if I remember rightly. So yeah, she actually did a fantastic year. So I don't know which way it's going to go, and I'm not quite sure which way I want it to go. You know, I know I'm kind of on the fence, but it's just because I like both, and I like to see Paige, this new face, come in and do well. But also, I've got a lot of love for KO and what he's done in the league in general. So it's tough for me. Keith, what say you?
I mean, listen, again, like it's another week, another big hitter has rolled out, another big name. It's KO time now for the next while. Listen, we learned at the start of the show kind of like his path and his future for the next bit. Shannon and himself found out about the stipulation with Shazam. Obviously, we're hearing Kevin Smith's going to play someone else for the right for a number one contender fight. And now he's kicking off his singles career or this season now against Paige. I personally think he's going to blow Paige out of this. I really, really do. I think he's going to bring IG into it. If he doesn't, he'd be an idiot. But that's just my own opinion. Paige is decent. Paige is like middle of the road. I think Paige is a little bit overrated from the Bateman win. I think Paige is very good, don't get me wrong, but I think Kalinowski should have too much for her and just kind of have her at arm's reach the whole way through. KO the whole way.
And I have to ask you, Keith, you brought this up and you mentioned it. What is up with Christian Harloff being so unfair to Shannon Barney and corruption? What is this stipulation? Yeah, Shazam's won a few matches. Oh, boo-hoo, we're the champions and we have to defend against the best competitors again. What's the big deal there? I think this is just ridiculously unfair on the chairman's part. I mean, Shazam, it's the dirtiest, most underhanded shot I've seen taken at a great tag team. Who wants to see Kalinowski and Chance broken up? I certainly don't. I want to see them keep competing. I want to see them win those belts, which they deserve. They are incredible competitors, and win, lose, or draw against Shazam, this breaking up the team thing, I just do not agree with it.
It's very funny you say it because Corruption did that to the Founding Fathers a few seasons ago when they had to play them back to back to back, and then Grace, I believe, was in charge at the time and said that the stipulation was that if Corruption go 3-0 over the Founding Fathers, they had to break up. So listen, it's funny how these things just swing back around. I do agree with you. I think it's a little bit unfair, but it's the situation we're in. Personally, I'm very, very curious to see what the fallout of the IG division is, because now that we're getting the name check of Smets going to be in a number one contender shot, who is the other, dance partner? Like, you've got Amaru, Mara, Parker's out there. Does Hannah get another run at this? Who else is going to kind of come out of this? That's kind of the path I'm more interested in. But listen, if they lose, they lose. But isn't it quite funny that Corruption has a former singles champion on the bench waiting for a new teammate? So I feel like they'd be all right out one way or another.
For me, I think I was thinking hard about it. What should they do? Because obviously they haven't kind of decided. Christian's left it with them to decide what to do. But for me, I would show their mettle and just go for it. Yes,
100%.
Shazam are arguably the best team to ever play the game. Obviously up there with the Patriots. Whether they've gone past the Patriots yet, I don't know. Not one to judge. I'll decide on that. But they're up there. So if they can go in there and actually, like you said, Keith, if they lose, they break up. They've got Marisol there needing a teammate, but also Chance and Kalinowski they're both singles competitors. They're both Innergeekdom. They've got plenty of other stuff to worry about and to go for if they want to, rather than be in the team's division at all. But also, it's that thing. I think the gain from taking the match is just so big, because if they do win, I may be wrong, but this is off the top of my head. Will they be the first team to hold the belts 3 times?
Yes.
Yeah, see, so that's the thing for them as well to think about. If they go in and get that, take it off Shazam, who's arguably the best team to ever play it, also be the first team to hold the belts on 3 separate occasions, what you're going to do.
The first teams to hold the belt on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah, first team.
But they'd probably have to turn around and do it again, because Shazam have 3 defenses in their back pocket, so you would imagine that they would get an automatic rematch. And so we're into Corruption Shazam 4 or whatever it is then.
At which point, I'm going to have to throw it out there. Let's say that happens. The hypothetical comes to pass, and I'll admit it's a tough mountain to climb when you're facing down Shazam, but we go forward, the match happens, and Corruption walks out with the titles. Would it not be the fairest thing to do? They get their automatic rematch, but if they lose, Shazam has to break up. Is that not even? Is that not justice in the world of the Schmoedown?
I mean, I think that'll be the corruptionist stipulation to put in there. But I think it's also probably quite heartbreaking for most of the fans and other competitors in the league, to be fair.
You know, Keith, you're right. Now that I hear it out loud, when corruption does it, it is a much better idea.
This is it. But listen, again, more layers. This season is just going in so many different directions. We genuinely, as the audience, have no idea what's going to come next. That's great.
Yeah, and what about the last other scene we saw with Jacoby looking for some mentorship from Mark Reilly, who seems to be manifesting his inner Mr. Miyagi or Yoda, I'm not really sure. Or I can't think of a gardener that you guys would know. So someone who's doing something with the tree. Anyway, so yeah, what do you think about this?
Interesting that he went to Reilly, of all people. Like we haven't, this is the first tell of Reilly this season. He kind of went out with a whimper last year. He was in the teams competition. I don't believe he was in the singles tournament last year. Reilly could have been one of these that kind of just took a stage left and didn't come back this season. Going to be interesting to see him in a kind of a mentorship manager role this year. It's going to be a different kind of view of Mark Reilly. But again, this guy's a 2-time singles champion. He's played from team's belt twice with Clark Wolf and with Ben Bateman. So, Reilly's got a lot of big game experience. And if Jacoby can get some part of that Reilly back away from kind of the foliage and, his newfound love of gardening, then Jacoby's onto a winner here, I think. But Elk, please.
Mark Reilly, obviously a legend in the Schmoedown. Hell, there's an award named after the guy. He was the first champion, really, in the era of the Schmoedown. He was the guy who brought it all in. And Mark Reilly, as a competitor, no disrespect intended, of course, he's always been very interesting. I don't think there's any player who quite fills the role that Mark Reilly has. He is, and we all know this, a top-tier player. On the right day, if the questions fall in the right way, Mark Reilly can beat anybody. He's proven this by doing so, as you mentioned, on multiple occasions. He's fallen short of a few belts, it's true. But Mark Reilly is also a competitor where when he is on, he's one of those top-tier competitors. When he is not, he can drop 6 or 7 points off of his average like that. Gone, out of there, no chance in the matchup. It's happened a couple of times, and I never love to see it, but we all have to accept that reality. Mark Reilly, at his best, is one of the best to ever play the game. Mark Reilly, at his just okayest, not so much. Still, I think this is a great idea to find someone who can give you that knowledge of being in those number one matches, in those title matches, who can give you here's how you study, here's how you recover from some of the drubbings you might face. You have a bad round, you get over it. He certainly improved in that area when he was with Ben Bateman as part of Who's the Boss. We saw a change in Mark Reilly then, and we've seen him bring out that best of himself. Is the Mark Reilly who was trying to figure out where Homer Simpson went when he backed up into the bush the correct guy to give that information? At this point, I'm not sure. But after being left high and dry by one of our favorite people, Nick Harley himself, Jacoby Bancroft does need a hand. And Mark Reilly, maybe he's Mr. Miyagi. Maybe not so much. But I'll take a discount, Mr. Miyagi, if I'm on my own. Any help is appreciated. That's what Jacoby needs right now in order to recover, in order to find a direction for himself, because obviously you lose your partner unexpectedly. That's going to throw you. That's going to take you out of your game. Can Mark Reilly be the answer for Jacoby? Again, when he stops staring at the bush, we'll find out.
I don't know. I think Reilly is the perfect guy to help Jacoby take that dagger out of his back that the despicable Nick Harley left in there last week or the week before, whenever it was. But I think it's a good pairing though between the two of them. So I think we're pretty much there. And is anything else you guys want to talk about before Andrew takes us out?
Just always a pleasure to be here, CB.
Yeah, well.
It is always a thrill to join you gentlemen here on the show. And I just want to say, CB, don't worry. The supply chain shortages, they are worked out. I have contacted Home Depot. We're going to be able to build you a lifeguard chair to go right over that fence any day now.
Did I sit on the fence today? Oh, yeah, I suppose I did, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Okay, Andrew, take us out for this week.
Ladies and gentlemen, fans and friends, thank you once again for joining us. If you're out there and you've enjoyed the show, as we break it all down, all the action, all the movie trivia mayhem, please feel free to drop us a comment, a like, reach out to any one of us on social media. If you're one of our FCL friends out there, maybe someone we talked about in the previous iteration of this weekend, which, of course, we all still deeply hope has a chance to return for you soon. FCL 2022, baby. Hey, if you're out there watching, we'd love to hear from you guys as well. If any of you might be interested in popping on and talking, we're seeing some FCL competitors in the Schmoedown. We would love to have you on the show. But of course, we'll always be here breaking it down for you. A super crew of super fans of the Schmoedown, including myself. I am the Elk. You can find me online by checking out at KELK Andrew on Twitter. That's at Kelk Andrew on Twitter. I rarely tweet, but when I do, it's not that interesting. That being said, my co-hosts also are on social media and may have a lot more to say than I do. Keith, tell everybody where you are.
Twitter and Instagram at KeithClough89. And the height of my social media activity this week was figuring out who Brie Larson is going to be playing in Fast 10.
Wow, that's
that news, to be fair.
That's a head scratcher. I mean, Fast 10, these movies, they're going to be coming out until the end of time, and I think everybody famous is going to be in them eventually. In fact, I heard a casting rumor for Fast 12. It's going to star not only a great person, but an incredible personality, our very own CB, who you can find online at...
I'm at Twitter, Instagram at ChrisBarnes_UK. I will not be in Fast 12 because, well, no, I just don't want to be fair. They started well. If you'd have told me you're going to be in Tokyo Drift, I've been like right up for that best Fast Furious movie. But no, yeah, ChrisBarnes_UK, Twitter, Instagram, and that's pretty much it.
All right, folks, and it has been a pleasure. Once again, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We always appreciate it. We hope you've enjoyed the breakdown, and we will absolutely be coming back next week to give you all the information you need. We break down the news, the matches, and everything else about the Schmoedown, so you don't end up getting the blind side. Obligatory Sandy B reference on the way out, folks. It has been a great week. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week when we break down everything this week in the Schmoedown.